Hi, everybody. So thank you so much for attending our webinar today with our lovely guest, Dixon Jones. He is the Director of Marketing here at Majestic. We have been partnering with Majestic for probably the past several months, and they have been providing you with amazing backlink data. We are really, really proud to have them as our partner here. So we appreciate you all for being with us as well. But before we begin, can I make sure that everybody can hear me, they can see him? If not, will you raise your hand in the webinar, in the GoToWebinar panel? Okay, so it looks like we are good.
Okay.
At the end of this webinar, we will allow for you to ask any questions, and we will answer all those questions. But in the middle of the webinar, you can, of course, type those out. So here's Dixon. How are you doing?
Okay. I'm great. Have you pressed record, Anne?
I have. I luckily have done that.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me, guys. Really appreciate it.
All right. So today I read on the Majestic blog that you have recently launched a 3D printer into space, and you are going to be mapping the internet in 3D.
It's true. So yeah, and I guess that kind of messed up whatever you were going to ask in the questions and stuff. So yeah, so what we've been planning this for about a year, and it's just today that I tried to get NASA to change the launch date, but you know, so at midnight last night Eastern time in the States, in Florida and Cape Canaveral, a supply rocket took off from Cape Canaveral, and on it they've got a 3D printer, which is it's a collaboration of private organizations by Made in Space, and Made in Space have partnered up with NASA, and this printer operates in zero gravity. It's been designed to operate in zero gravity, and it's the first time. They did send up a test one before to try and work out how to do it in zero gravity, but this is the first one that's going to actually print anything commercially. And so we wanted to see that happen, and so we've invested in paying for a 3D object being printed in space. And what we decided to print is our own map of the internet. So we visualized the whole of the links on the internet into a 3D model, which is something that we designed, or had a data artist, a famous data artist called Brendan Dawes, designed last year, and he designed some software which you can go and download and print your own if you want. Yes, we're going to get that printed in space. That's going to take a few weeks or months to actually print. The rocket took off today. Hopefully we'll get it back in low Earth orbit, and we'll be able to bring it to conferences in November, that sort of time. But a great day. And so this image that you see in the here, that's actually something that we generated for part of the publicity around it, and it's actually all those dots are web servers on the planet. And so there's no lines for countries there. That's just dots of all the web servers on the planet. We thought that would be a good way of demonstrating one visualization of the internet from space. But it's not what we're going to print. We're going to print a 3D object. I don't know if you've got a picture of it. There you go. So yep. This is what I like how you feed this into me, Anne. That's great. This is what the internet looks like from Majestic's eyes, based on the trust flow and citation flow of every page on the internet, every domain on the internet, about 150 million domains. Each domain may have millions of links as well, but then each of those has a score of a trust flow between 0 and 100, and a citation flow between 0 and 100, and then for every dot the model rises a little bit. So that's a representation of how the internet looks. So we kind of hope that the printer is going to print something that looks a lot like that. Yeah.
It's amazing, truly. And how will this benefit us as a society, or even as search marketers?
You know what? I mean, some things are just too big to miss as an opportunity. The reason that we're doing it, I mean, clearly there's no obvious connection between how we're going to put that out in space and how Majestic is going to make money. But what it's doing it's just costing a lot of money, but you know, it's publicity. But for us, we changed our brand from Majestic SEO to Majestic, what, 2 years, best part of 2 years ago now, and people still call us Majestic SEO, and the reason for doing it for us is that Majestic has so much data that we want to not be seen as an SEO company. We spend a lot of money changing our brand from Majestic SEO to majestic.com, and we're still really only known amongst the SEO community and with the domain community, and that's fine. But our data has so much more to offer, and we kind of need to show other people outside our industry that Majestic has some kind of influence in the world. So it's a good analogy for us. And we think there's a really good analogy between space and the internet anyway, in terms of the maths and the modeling. And they're both.
They said, how does a backlink tool like Majestic help clients make better decisions and better websites and content decisions?
Okay, so that's a good question. There's a number of good reasons or good things you can do, and a lot of them are going to take too much time to explain on a webinar. But I think that one of the most important tools that you use in Majestic, if you're looking at your business, is actually looking at your competitors. You can get your own data for free, and that's great. We give your own data for free as long as you let us crawl your website. But really, it's working out where all your competitors are and what they're doing in the world. So if you put in 10 websites yourself and 9 competitors into one of our tools, our key cards tool, and it will show you all of the places on the web where 1, 2, 3, 4 or more of your competitors have links. And that says a lot more than just SEO. What it says is that your competitors are getting real traction from these other web places and you don't have a presence there. So that really narrows down some information as to where you need to get your brand if you want to succeed. And of course, if Google's doing its job properly, then that's going to eventually roll out into Google understanding that your business is more competitive in those environments if Google is doing its job properly. You can also use Majestic a lot to start finding influencers, because if you look at Twitter handles, for example, you can see how influential those people are and in what context. So if you're going to reach out to people and you're using it for influence finding, it's a really, really powerful way of clearing out the weak signals from the strong signals, because there's a lot of people on Twitter or in blogs that can appear to make a lot of noise, but really no one's listening. So if you can find the right influencers, then that's a great thing. So the backlink tool is a mechanism for finding out places that are powerful, that are influential to your business and influential in your marketplace. And if you can do that, then you can find connections with the right people, and that's how you make better decisions. And so content-wise, write things that those people are going to talk about. That's the short answer, I think.
All right. And I think the follow-up question then, we had it with somebody else, is how do you know what those people are going to write about? How do you monitor those audiences with a tool like Backlink or Majestic?
Well, we have a tool in there which will send us emails of anybody that links to us every day. So, and you can do that for any website. So you can see who's linking to you and who's linking to your competitors every day. So let's say there's an article that a competitor has talked about, or that a competitor has written, you think that's quite an interesting article. You could set up an email alert to see who's linking to that article. Because if you can do something better, then you can talk to that person and say, hey, you've just talked about this article. We've got something better to talk about. So email alerts is one way. The new and lost links tab, you can see how people are linking to you day by day and pull that information in. You can't make somebody link to you, but I have found that buying them a few drinks generally helps.
Does help, I imagine. All right, so that's very
Yeah.
interesting. So the next question, we had two people ask this question actually, Mike and Ertl, and they both said, how does a backlinks tool, I'm sorry, I have a new site or company and they want to build backlinks. So how do they go ahead and build those good backlinks for a new site?
Okay. Well, the tool I mentioned before, the Click Hunter, is really good. So finding, if you're a new company, you've got to first gather ground against your competitors. So you need to know where your competitors are getting their low-hanging fruit. So if 4 or 5 of your competitors are all getting links from certain sites, then you want to be there. That's not going to get you winning, though. That's not the good links. That's kind of like the basics that you're going to need to be able to compete. You then need to find the really good links, and the really good links are the ones that your competitors can't get. But what I would say is that you're then not chasing the link, you're chasing the person or entity behind the link is much more important. I can get a link on Mashable, that's not a problem. Getting a link on Mashable from a world-renowned author is much more difficult, and people don't tend to miss the point that they think that they want to get a link from a website that's TrustFlow 40 or whatever your number may be. But then you get a page out there, and when a page is created, it has TrustFlow of 0, regardless of how good the website is. And it's only when other people link to it or talk about it that it starts to gain trust. So it's really trying to find influential people and then getting those influential people to talk about your product or your idea in the right location. There are other ways to do it, but influence finding is going to get the good stuff, and tracking your competitors is going to get you the groundwork done.
All right, fantastic. The next one is asked by Shubin Yoon, and it says, is it still worth being a guest blogger to gain that backlink?
Well, I think that there's guest blogging and there's being an influencer, and the two are connected. If you just wake up one morning and your client is an auto trader, and then you go around and saying, oh, I'd like to write a blog post on your automobile site, and then the next morning you wake up and your customer is a credit card salesman, and then you say, I want to write about credit cards on these sites, then you're just guest blogging. You're not creating any traction of your own behind that blog post. And I think that that's a dangerous place to be now, ever since Google started really coming down on guest blog posts that were of low quality. I think there's a huge difference between a guest blogger who is renowned in their field and a guest blogger who no one has ever heard of. And it's surprising, it's not easy to suddenly become renowned in your industry, but you can do it. You can do it, and you do it by being good at the things that you say, and hopefully relatively consistent in a way that people then admire you. And everybody can be famous for something. I mean, hey, you know,
Launching a 3D printer into space.
Yeah, that's a really good example of something that technically you shouldn't do, because I'm certainly not an expert in 3D printing, but we have an idea that we think hopefully will transcend it, and we're trying to move the needle of where people see our brand with that. And obviously that's a very big and different thing to normal. I would normally more than happily come and be a guest, in this case guest presenter, but being a guest presenter and being a guest blogger is much the same kind of idea. Talking with you here is very much similar to being a guest blogger. As long as I'm blogging about the thing that I know about, then that's great. If I start blogging too much about music or potentially space, but hopefully this one doesn't count. Hopefully this one does count. Then I think that my voice will rapidly become just a voice on the internet, and we've already got 7 billion of those.
Yep. And how long do you think it takes for somebody to become a renowned guest blogger?
It depends what you want to be an expert in. People really do seem to come out of the blue on these kind of things. I think it does help if you learn your craft first, and it does help if you give to society, give to the well, give to the machine. You know, if you think of the internet as pretty much the Borg from Star Trek, then really you've got to give of your intellect before you're going to start getting anything back. And a lot of people will jump in and try and get quick wins. In fact, in many countries, that's kind of the only way that it goes. But I think in the more developed SEO countries, there's an understanding that SEO and marketing theory go quite well. They go hand in hand quite well. And in order to be influential, then you need to put some work in. But you know, if you want to be an expert in, I don't know, your town's eateries and fine food, then all that's going to do, that's going to be less time than trying to be an expert on you know, Michelin star restaurants, because they're a lot harder to get to.
Okay, interesting. Eli asked that when we use a backlink research tool, these backlinks don't show up. Why is it that these backlinks don't show up, and how can I tell if a backlink will help us or not? So these people,
Okay.
some background story here is these people have a site about remodeling, and whenever they use a backlinks tool, they can't find their backlinks that they have.
Okay. So there's a whole load of reasons why links don't show up, and there's quite a long blog post on it. But the main reasons why a backlink won't show up in our data is because the website that it has linked to you has blocked our bot. We're a very honest bot, so we identify ourselves as MJ12 bot, and if any website wants to block us, just like they block Google, it's very simple. They can do it in robots.txt, and we won't go and crawl the website. Now, what that will do usually is losing a few links is not going to give us is not going to lose much of the pattern. So we still know everything about that website that tries to block us because we know all the links to it, but we don't know the links that come out of that website. So that's one reason. And another reason is that it may be that the ISP, the web server that is hosting the site, is blocking the bot, and that's a bit more of a problem because the user doesn't know, the website owner doesn't know, and the ISP is then blocking the bot fraudulently, really, because if they're blocking our bot, they're blocking other bots, and ultimately they're blocking traffic, and they're doing that really to save bandwidth for them. So that's usually as a result of an overly cheap web host service, at which point I would recommend that you either shout at your web hosting company or move. But certainly if you find that's one of the reasons why we let people have their own data, linked data, for free on Majestic, because you can then have a look at your own pages, and if it says we've got 403 forbidden, it means we've not been able to crawl the web page, and if we can't crawl the web page, we're not going to give you your data. So it's a share and share. So there are other reasons though. It may be that the links are really so far removed from the heart of the internet that we haven't got to them. And if that's the case, then there's two things that you can do. The first thing is that you can upload up to 100,000 links at a time into Majestic, and that will redirect our crawler. So the maximum number of links that you can get out of Google Webmaster Tools is or was 100,000, and theoretically you can just upload all of those into Majestic, and that will tell us to go and check them and find the flow metrics and analyze those links. And we will do that, and it will usually take 2 days or so for the data to show up. It's not a promise. If again, if we're still blocked, we're blocked. But if we're not, then they would then show up.
All right. And
Is
then
that
how
okay?
can you tell? Yeah, that's very clear to me. But how will you tell if a backlink is going to help you or not move up in the rankings?
Oh, okay. So there's a few things. Firstly, you should check to see whether the link is a no followed link. If it's a no followed link, it shouldn't help you on your rankings. However, if traffic is coming down that link, then I wouldn't worry about that. So I wouldn't not get a link just because it's no follow. All Wikipedia links are no follow. I'll take a Wikipedia link any day of the week. That'd be great. Thank you very much. But comment links I think are really bad. If you just put a link in a comment, blog comment, that's not a good plan. It's going to be no followed, and even if it isn't, Google knows that they're comment links and comment spam, and they're actually probably going to count against you. However, the main thing is for us, with the metric that we give, is if the flow metric, the trust flow of the web page, not the website that is giving you the link, has trust, then that's a really good sign. It's also a really good sign if the trust flow metric, which is between 0 and 100, and the citation flow metric are around about the same level. What can happen is you've got a trust flow of 10 and a citation flow of 50. That's a really bad sign because it means that the link, the page itself is probably collecting trust through spammy links. So really the main metric is trust flow. If you've got a page that's got 20 trust flows, then it should by our definition anyway be quite a good page to get a link from, if it's not a no-follow link and if it's not in JavaScript.
All right.
Okay.
Yep. So
you know what? There's one other thing I'm going to add to that. Look at the page. Look at the page as well, and see if you are proud to have your brand associated with the page that you've got the link.
I think that's a really good point.
Your brain is so much better than any of the technologies out there.
Yeah.
If you don't look at them, then you're going to make some bad decisions.
Yep, and if you trust it, your customers trust you most likely, and therefore they're going to trust that page too.
That's it. And if Google gets it wrong, fine. When Google improves its algorithm, it'll get it right. Yeah.
Exactly. With Rank Brain, hopefully it will.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah.
We have a fairly large question by Rodsozo. He has a ton of links in his search console, and although most of them are real, there are clearly some very spammy ones with random or totally not related content. Should he take an afternoon to make a list and disavow all of these spammy links? However, that's not the real problem. The real problem is that they just will keep coming. So should he be worried about link-based negative SEO? And if he should be worried, how does Google treat that? Will he get penalized, or will he gradually lose ranking depending on the number of spammy links?
Okay. It's a whole load of questions there. And I'm going to take off this webcam again.
Okay.
I already feel that it's holding me back. The first question is, I would be inclined, and I'm happy for other SEOs to disagree with me on this one, but I would be inclined to not worry about a disavow file until you know that you've been hurt. Google is pretty open in Webmaster Tools or Web Console or whatever they call it, Search Console now, as to whether you've been penalized with Penguin issues. And if you haven't, and if your rankings haven't taken a big dive, then I see Penguin as a cliff. You're doing really, really well with all the spammy links until you're not, and then you just go crashing out. So then you've gone too far, and it's going to cost you a lot, and you never want to get to that point. But until you do get to that point, a disavow file, I think, is nothing to is something I wouldn't worry about myself. So Majestic doesn't have a disavow file up on Google, I don't think. However, the fact that they keep on coming is a bit of a challenge. but Google has three default positions. Either a link counts in a positive way, or it doesn't count at all. And that probably is the majority of links now, to be honest. You know, if it's just another link, then it doesn't really count at all. And so that's the default position. And then it's only if there's strong signals to the contrary that a lot of those links will start counting negatively, really, and start penalizing you. So if these links are coming through all the time and they really look painful for you, I wouldn't worry about them until you've got a reason to. If you do, then I would make a list, and Majestic's great for that. So you can put all of them into Majestic and sort them by low trust flow and high citation flow, for example, or low trust flow, basically. And that will give you a good place to look. You're still going to need to pay attention to them. I think before you do that, you need to understand that there are many reasons on the internet why spammy looking links exist. Feed proxies are not necessarily anything to worry about. You know, you could have them inside places which you don't know why they're there, but they're there for a reason. So I wouldn't necessarily jump into disavowing absolutely everything unless you know what it is that you're disavowing and how they got there. Should I be worried about link-based negative SEO? Clearly, it's a possibility post Penguin. It's possible, and it does happen. And people keep on saying, "I've got examples of negative SEO." I have to say that we have a number of ambassadors are ex Google employees, and they have said every time they look at one of these, they find another reason for the drop in rankings that wasn't related to the negative SEO links. I think that Google are going to say that they don't like the idea that negative SEO exists. It can exist, and you should potentially be worried. But I would only really be worried if you're a real big brand, because then you'll have enough knowledge. Because people are not trying to bring down small brands. People are trying to bring down big brands so they can compete against them. So if your brand is not on the NASDAQ, then why on earth are people doing negative SEO on you? That's kind of where I would see it.
I've seen it done once with one of my customers where she clearly made somebody quite angry, and they bought links for her website that were linking to really bad things. And I told her immediately disavow it because I was concerned, to be honest, for her.
And if it's that obvious, then of course there's no harm with a disavow file, which where you know those links are not doing you anything but harm. The challenge then is to keep all the link information, and if it keeps on coming, that is a problem. It's a risky strategy for somebody doing negative SEO, because until it has a negative impact, it usually has quite a positive impact, because they're giving you lots and lots of links. So yeah, I guess it's not a toss of a coin. You've got to take a look at the nature of those spammy links that are coming in, and see what's exactly what we did.
When she saw all these negative links, or we call them low quality and position, like we actually went into the sites, and it looked like a nice site, and then you'd click one more thing, it would turn definitely not nice anymore. So it was very pornographic. So it was clearly, and that's when I would say disavow something like that.
It happens. I work in clean industries. I'm lucky.
All right. So we have a question about international backlinks, which is always a very fun and interesting subject. So this person runs a Spanish school in Chile, and they want to target foreigners. Their site is both in German and English, but it does end in .com. And so how do they build their international backlink profile?
Okay. Well, I can tell you what Majestic does, but it's not the perceived best version. So Majestic's in 12 languages, and we use de.majestic.com and fr.majestic.com and take that approach. That has pluses and minuses. it does allow the links to naturally start generating into the localized version, because we also geo-target people and redirect them by default to their natural language. But we have the ability for people to override that if they want to. But that means that a person that is looking at a website in Germany or is likely to see it in German, and therefore they'll see a URL that is in German. So when they link to it, they're likely to link to the German content. The downside is that they're all subdomains, and one would argue that the best way to get the overall juice is at yoursite.com/fr/
so it doesn't break up that link juice.
Yeah, it then makes it harder for you to get your content in multiple indexes, because Google indexes based on country, and so right now when we do subdomains, and I recommend that you go and into Search Console, Google Search Console, and they do have the ability to set country and language preferences of different parts of your content. That will allow Google to understand what content is designed for the Germans and what content is designed for the English. If you do that, make sure you do it for every version of your website, the www and non-www, also for the HTTP and HTTPS versions of your website as well. But you can use that to help Google understand what content is designed for what people.
All right.
Okay.
That's clear to me. If anybody has questions on it, they can ask. All right. So the next
I said more the first time, but you can hear it.
Yeah, it's okay. So the next question is by Philip. He says, do you think that old posts linking to 404 errors really have no impact on SEO, as Google writes in the Search Console?
Yeah, I do. I think if a link links to a 404, then it's linking to a dead end. No juice will pass. What's more, you're going to annoy your customer that's linked down there, that's linked from another website to your website. They then hit a 404. They're not going to blame the other website. They're going to blame you. Change your 404 errors into either 301s if you have content that's there, or make a really nice 404 page that is still registering as a 404, but help the user. Yes, I do agree with what Google says there. I think a 404 is a dead end for SEO.
All right, fair enough.
Can I just add one thing there, Anne? So there's also another mistake that SEOs make, which is they make it so it's impossible to get a 404 error on your website by making the 404 itself 301 or whatever. That's also a mistake. Google checks for that and doesn't like it. So you shouldn't make it impossible to get a 404, but you should go and have a look at your own content and the 404s that you're getting. And Majestic's got a great tool for that. So you just look at the Pages tab, you can see all the 404s of links to your website just in the Pages tab on Majestic.
All right. The next question is by Kasha. So can she be penalized or hurt by linking to bad or irrelevant websites? And what if that site does become bad at some point? So maybe that site gets hit by a penalty. Should they constantly monitor this? No, I don't think you should constantly monitor it. I think you hurt your brand more than your SEO if you link to bad or irrelevant websites, because you're starting to advise your customers and your visitors to go and link to crap. And when you do that, they're not going to then come back to you. So Google assumes that on balance, actually a website would assume, or Majestic does as well, would assume that on balance, you're not going to do that unless you're a pretty bad person yourself, as a regular rule. So you're not going to get penalized for it, but you may find that your customers don't like it. Is the short answer. Especially if you suddenly find that your links going off to
abusive or malware sites and things, at that point Google will tell you, because they're picking up those signals and they want to tell you anyway, in their malware section.
Yep.
You know what? And if the bandwidth is getting tight, why don't I ask you guys a question?
All right.
If that's okay. So, Positionally's integration of Majestic has happened, and you guys are one of only really a handful of people that have license to take our data, resell our data, do whatever you like. You didn't have to say to the world that you use our data. You've got the right to do so, and you have the
data.
Yeah, you have the advantage of being able to add value layers to our data that we can't do because we're just a web crawler. So can you tell me some of the things that you have done to integrate the Majestic data into the Positionally tool?
Yes, most definitely. So we are coming out with a new product line called Positionally Pro. We've actually have created a few features already, which are available for an extra cost, but as an add-on basis right now. So with this new product line and this new backlink section, we have made it so you are able to dig really deep into the backlinks. And if you connect your Google Analytics account, you can see actually how much traffic every single one of your backlinks is bringing to you alongside that trust flow and that citation flow. So it's a really helpful monitoring tool. So if you have a lot of traffic coming from, as you were saying earlier, something with a trust flow below 10, then don't disavow that. I mean, that is really important to you, and Google's going to notice those things as well. So we have integrated that into our platform. We've also have integrated a lot of beautiful graphs, and I would love to show you, but I didn't include this on the slideshow. A lot of beautiful graphs that you can actually be able to see if the domains and the domain age and everything, you can see how many of them are coming in general. So we have made it much more visual, which has been really helpful for many of our customers. We have in our normal Positionally, we have, I'm sorry?
Yeah, no, that's cool. No, that's all I said. That's cool.
Yeah, it really is. If anybody wants to send me an email afterwards and they want to try it out, I'd happily let them try it out for a couple of weeks and play with it. Another thing that we have done with the new with our normal Positionally is that we have created a quality score. We've realized that a lot of our customers are small and medium businesses that might not get super deep into what trust flow and citation flow is. So we have made it very easy by just providing a quality score. So we have a low, high, medium quality score, and it's a really great way for you just to be able to quickly see, okay, this is something I can trust, this is something I like, and it has been really helpful for our customers that don't fully understand a trust flow and citation flow. So those are the two things that we have done with Majestic data so far. We are building out this backlink section even further to show you as you were talking about, the followers and such that happen with each one. But we're going to do it with like how many impressions that they've gotten with Twitter, for instance, and things. We're going to crawl Twitter here soon and also include that with the Positionally Pro backlink section. Is it good to have a large number of high quality backlinks, or should I ask to remove and disavow every one of them and retain only the medium to high quality backlinks with a T and high? Sorry, I think you've pretty much answered this, but you can go ahead again. You're breaking up a little. So
no, I hopefully I'm saying the same thing as I said last time. To me, unless you've gone over the cliff, I don't think you need to worry. Okay. If you have gone over the cliff, then yes, you need to worry and start having a good look at your bad backlinks, and start doing a big disavow.
And I personally have a follow-up question for that is, so after you've gone over the cliff and you see like, okay, I've been hit by Penguin, and then you start disavowing all those backlinks, how long is it going to be until you will probably see your rankings go up again?
Oh, no, that's a really good question. And it depends on the nature of the Penguin penalty. And I've been lucky enough not to have to do this for some time. so Google said that they were turning Penguin into a rolling thing. I didn't see that. I saw a huge amount of time where people were cleaning up links and not getting their penalties lifted. But a lot of the stuff is algorithmic, and the algorithmic stuff should get fixed pretty quick. It's the manual stuff which can take some time. I think now. You know what? I'll tell you what. I don't know the answer. Sometimes it just gets fixed very quickly, and sometimes it just doesn't move. I think, in my heart of hearts, if it doesn't move, you haven't fixed the problem. But other SEOs are saying that they're waiting for a Penguin update. But I wouldn't wait on a Penguin update. I would carry on plugging away at it and just trying to make your site better, because I'm not entirely convinced that it's the way Penguin update that everyone worries about. If your rankings have dropped and they stay low, you probably haven't fixed the problem.
Yep, makes sense. And
I might be wrong.
yeah, I think that's definitely up for debate. But
okay.
Yeah, it's Google, so nobody really knows.
Yeah, true. Oh, how long does it take for me to see the results of my backlinking efforts? You know what? One good link can have a huge impact very, very quickly. I'm not a big believer in getting thousands of links. I'm a big believer in getting a few links. So when we did this space thing today, we've emailed probably 30, 40 people, all of which we've bought drinks for in the past, and we know we've shared our information with them and asked them to embargo it. After that, it's social media when it breaks. I would hope that we would start ranking pretty soon if it was an objective to try and start ranking for internet in space or 3D printing in space, then I would hope that we start ranking fairly soon. That's not been our objective on this occasion, but I certainly think that a good link is picked up by Google pretty quickly. It then can have an impact on your rankings within a day or so. In fact, it has an impact on discovery within hours. So Google starts spotting pages very, very quickly. The ranking, though, then can take some more time, because usually a link is only a small signal. But those big links can really be powerful. If you can get yourself
one from
the
NASA.
Barack Obama link, then I'll take that link, whatever he says.
Yeah, most definitely. Okay. And we are going to conclude with, what are the best backlink strategies for 2016?
Okay. Well, I'm going to say something a little bit controversial here. I think that the best backlinking strategies here are to stalk a person or an entity. So in other words, find the entities that are important. There's some good research out there that Google have, that they're building an entity engine. They have built an entity engine. So that means that, let's say the influencer that you've got, the concept that you've got is that I don't know, sun and ice cream are related. When the sun comes out, ice cream, people want ice cream. Therefore, you might say, I want people, weather forecasters, to be influencers for my ice cream brand, and that might be relevant. And that person then is associated with their weather program on the television, their weather program on the internet, their own personal blog, and their Twitter profile. And you kind of want to go where the person goes and stalk them, because they're the influencer, regardless of whether they're talking on their website, or whether they're talking on their blog, or they're talking on their radio show. So it's the entity that you're associating with, rather than the actual web page. So you could get 2 pages on Mashable. I mentioned Mashable before. I don't know why. BBC, because I'm British. Could have 2 pages on the BBC. One page might pass link juice to you and the next one wouldn't pass link juice to you, even though those pages might be the exact same trust flow or page rank or page authority or whatever. And the reason would be because there's no association with the concept or the content on one page with your website and there is with another page on your website. So it's quite a complicated answer, but the short thing is it's about the authority behind the page, and whether that authority is related to you. I think that is most important. So track the authority. And it could be a brand, it could be a person, it could be a game. If you could be chasing Game of Thrones because your site is a Game of Thrones forum. But concepts rather than pages is probably the strongest strategy.
Interesting. Okay. That is a little controversial, but yes.
That'll blow somebody's mind, I'm sure. I've been talking about this on a couple of occasions. I started talking about it in PubCon in, I think, November in Las Vegas. And Bill Slawski was in the audience. And I don't know if you know Bill Slawski, but he spends a lot of time doing some really deep research on patents and that sort of thing. And he always scares me when he's in the audience because he's really clever. And he nodded, which was a good sign for me. I'm not saying that's my whole theory, but I think that entity search is something that SEOs haven't even started to understand. But the easiest way to understand it is following influencers and getting influencers to talk about it. But there are other ways to do it as well.
Okay. So we're going to take some questions from the guests now. So Heather says, I have a website targeting different markets. So there's a German version is linking to the Dutch version of a website. And will this be regarded as spammy? So how will Google look at these links? Because they are not relevant considering the source of the link, but should she do that?
I think Google is more likely to get confused than treat it as spam. So those links distort the signals for a search engine. So I can only really think about it from Majestic's point of view, but Majestic would start to get its topical information incorrect because we would be linking, in this case, from one topic to another topic, and that link would be an incorrect match. But that happens a lot on the internet, and this is a case of if you've got a lot of link equity, a lot of signals, then those links will have a very small negative impact because there will be a lot of clear signals that explain that the Dutch content is over here and the German content is over there. If you're a news site or you've got relatively small amounts of links and those links are it's the strongest links that are linking to the wrong place, then that can confuse an algorithm quite quickly because it hasn't got a lot of signals to go on. A link is a very weak signal of intent, and it could be wrong, but at millions it's usually right. It's in between the dozens and the millions that the question becomes complicated, and that's where a search engine get wrong. So I don't think they'll treat them as spammy. I think they'll just make incorrect inferences out of incorrect link matches.
All right. So Darren has asked, there seems to be a lot of discussion when creating a blog, whether you should use a subdomain or a subfolder. If one decides to use subdomains, does the trust level of any of his backlinks to the subdomain have any positive influence on the main domain?
Clearly, okay, the perceived wisdom is that the preference is to have / blog or news or whatever, so having it as a subfolder, as a folder on the main site. It does two different things. We have blog.majestic.com, and the reason we do that is because technically it makes our life a lot safer. For me to have a WordPress blog on the main site just makes the developers angry, the systems administrator worried about security and goodness knows what. So it's not worth my life trying to fight for, forward slash blog for my blog. But it does mean that Google treats blog.majestic.com independently of majestic.com or www.majestic.com. So we of course heavily link from the blog to the main site, but you lose a little bit of juice along the way. So you create a story that's on the blog, you do lose some juice if you're trying to then redirect that to the main site, even through links. I think that the perceived wisdom is right. If you can do it on your main site /news and your or blog, then that's the strongest way to do it. There are advantages of having it as a subdomain, but the main advantages are security rather than SEO.
Okay. So Francisco says, hello from Barcelona. I would like to know if links to another page within a web why links from a page within a web page has not positioned me despite him having a lot of them.
Okay, let me just read back what I think the question was. Hello, Barcelona. I wish I was there. It's a lot colder here.
Me too.
I assume that the question is, do internal links have value? I might be wrong, in which case please retype the question. So Majestic doesn't give you information about internal link structures, but we do use internal link structures to work out trust flow. So we follow all of the links internally, but if we were to report on every single internal link, our data set would be 8 times the size, and our data set is in the petabytes anyway. So we would be talking about having to buy 8 more data centers to store the data. So we ain't going to do that because it already costs us millions. So what we do is we follow the internal links and pass the trust flow through internally. So you can then have pages in our system that we don't see in external links or any links coming to them from other sites, but they still got trust flow, and that's because we followed the site's internal link structure. And certainly it does, your internal link structure and your internal link sculpting definitely, in my opinion, will affect what web pages appear at the top of search engines, and which pages are going to just fade into insignificance. So you can use your internal link structure very effectively. What people don't often realize is that they may have links, side-white links all over their site that completely change any link sculpting, if you like. And that can distort the intention of trying to build silos of authority. So if you've got a section of all the restaurants in London and another section for all the websites, the restaurants in New York, you don't then want to have the New York restaurant pages linking to the English restaurant pages too easily, because they're making it difficult to find areas of authority within a website.
Right.
If I didn't answer the question,
yeah, if you didn't, Francisco, just write it again and we'll send you an email with it. Okay. And so for the final and last question for us, aside from content marketing, what are some other ways you would recommend to increase backlinks for a website?
Well, sending a 3D printer into space, I reckon is going to do something. Hype. I mean, marketing is basically, SEO is very similar to marketing, and if you can create hype, then it can have some impact. And I think increasingly the search engines are trying to find signals that are not necessarily easy to manipulate with just a hyperlink. So I think that there may be evidence to say that if Google could spider all its Android apps, for example, and you've got traffic going from Android apps, then maybe that's something that Google might take into account. So perhaps you might want to start thinking about getting links in Android apps or in third-party technologies, and as the search engines start to develop an understanding for those, then I think that's potentially valuable. I don't know if you saw today, a very famous B&B site has been using some interesting link methodologies. You can go and have a look at them. I haven't looked at the detail in there, but you can certainly you can use things like widgets and stuff, and they again work until they don't. And they have worked quite a lot. If you want to go black hat, there are a lot of people that buy domains and 301 them to websites. There's a lot of them doing it. It's not something I would recommend, but you're asking the question, what else? No, but people do that a lot, and I think the problem with that approach is that 301s now have a different meaning to when I was young, and in that it would appear that Google is degrading certainly multiple 301s. So if there's a 301 onto a 301 onto a 301, then it's going to degrade over time. But also, Google does seem to have a tendency now to check whether you're buying domains, changing the whois information, 301ing it onto another website. They seem to have got onto that one quite a lot, but there's plenty of other people that would say, well, no, they haven't, and it's working for them. I think that there's a lot to be said for getting your technology out. If you've got a technology site like we are, but you could also be a review site, or you could be any kind of a site. If you can get your data out to third-party content, then I think that's a good mechanism. We in the SEO industry keep on thinking that people have got to buy on our website, and that's not really the way forward. You know, if you're in WhatsApp and your mate talks to your mate, and then they say, right, let's go out for a pizza. You know, there's not been a link, but there's been a conversation that's been in an app. So trying to get your ad onto the app, I think, is still valuable. Not necessarily for organic SEO, but if you can get your data into third-party apps, then I think long term that's going to have a value. So one of Majestic's structures is, it's great that positionally using our data through the API, because long term that tells me that a company that's hugely respected like Positionally trusts Majestic, and long term that's going to be good for Majestic. As long as other people do it as well, then we're going to be good for the people that people see for being the linked data. So I'm okay with that.
Okay.
In the end, my brand's going to come out.
Yeah, no,
okay.
It's true. We do trust you quite a bit. So, all right. So I think
thank you.
I think that's all that we can do for questions today. We did miss some, but we'll email them the answers and get back to them. So if you have any other questions, you can be sure to email Dixon directly at djones@majestic.com. Also, his Twitter is there.
Oh, you're cruel. No, don't do that.
Sorry,
Can you email support@majestic.com?
Okay.
The thing is, send it out there. I have a PA who every morning goes in and deletes all the emails that are not relevant because there's too many comes in. So literally, I have a human being that deletes all those emails. But in support, we still have that. But then the ones that are actual questions that can't be answered, they will get assigned to me.
So email support@majestic.com, please. Sorry about that. Truly.
It doesn't. I mean, it doesn't matter. I've already got millions of emails going in there every day, you know. And yeah, Twitter is quite good as well.
There's also his Twitter there. Or you can, of course, always email me, which is ann@positionally.com. I'm happy to answer some of your backlink questions.
Spam her.
Spam me. I'm pretty good at backlinks, not even half as good as you are, but I do know them. So.
I'm sure you're better than me.
No
I
way.
just okay.
All right. So thank you all for
Okay.
attending. Thank you so much, Dixon. It was lovely
Thanks,
talking to
Anne.
you.
I'm sorry about the internet connection. Glad it
It
got better in the end.
happens. No worries. It did get much better at the end. So thanks again.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.